Good morning and welcome to today's episode of Leon County Today with Sheriff Walt McNeil. I'm Shonda Knight and here with Sheriff, and a great topic we have today. Our guests today are so vital to the work we do at the Sheriff's Office.
Yeah, people don't realize it, but the Consolidated Dispatch Agency is the anchor. It is the place where it all sort of starts. If we get good information coming from citizens about crime and what's going on in the community, they call the Consolidated Dispatch Agency. They talk to our dispatchers, and dispatchers get that information out to the deputies and police officers on the streets. And that's a tremendously important process of how we get crime fought in this community. And I tell you, they are sometimes, at least from my perspective, the unsung heroes in our community in terms of our effort to fight crime. So I think we've got a special week coming up for them, and we want to make sure the citizens out there understand how important they are to us in the Leon County Sheriff's Office and to you, the citizens of Leon County.
Yeah, some folks out there might not realize what the Consolidated Dispatch Agency is, but it is where all of those 911 emergency calls come in, and those operators on the other end of the line. I often wonder about, just the spirit that they have to be able to take those calls effectively, get the information when people are in crisis mode many of the time.
Absolutely, Shonda. I really, there are a lot of jobs that I'd like to have, but that's not one of them.
Yeah.
Being there, when you're in the field and you're a deputy or an officer, you can actually do something. But they're on the phone listening to these people's horror stories as it occurs, and then having to wait and see how it turned out. I'm sure it makes it a very stressful job. Yeah,
but as you said, they are heroic in so many ways, and we want to celebrate them. This week is Telecommunications Awareness Week, and not only that, they are recruiting. So we're going to have much more information coming up in a little bit about
recruiting.
Anyone out there who's looking for a new career. It might definitely be something they want to take advantage of. But, this is one of those things where we all work together when it comes to public safety in our community, not only for law enforcement, but fire, EMS. They funnel all those calls and they have to decide the best direction.
Absolutely. Like I said a moment ago, Shonda, the volume of stuff that comes into our CDA that these dispatchers, 911 operators have to deal with is staggering. And we're going to hear more about that from them themselves. They'll tell their stories better than I can.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Sheriff. And be sure to stick around, everybody. Coming up after the break, you're going to hear from them. They are the first ones you talk to in emergency. More on the Consolidated Dispatch Agency. But first, let's check in with Deputy McMillan with your Crime Tip Tuesday.
Hello everyone, this is Deputy Shade McMillan, your Public Information Officer for the Leon County Sheriff's Office, and here's today's Crime Tip Tuesday. Tips for avoiding COVID vaccine scams. Vaccines for the COVID-19 virus are readily available now. However, scams are out there for unsuspecting victims. Here are some tips to avoid vaccine scams. No legitimate company will call about the vaccine and ask for your Social Security number or bank information. You cannot pay to get the vaccine early. You cannot receive shipments of the vaccine at your home. You do not have to pay for the vaccine. Stay safe out there.
Before you throw away those unused medicines,
those pills for your back pain or migraines,
just think for a minute. When you throw them in the trash, they can become lethal in the wrong hands.
There are better ways to dispose of your unused meds.
there are lots of police stations, local pharmacies, and hospitals that are approved to take in unused meds
and dispose of them safely,
so they don't end up in the wrong hands. Our hands.
To find a medicine disposal site near you, visit www.safe.pharmacy.
In every family, small conversations can make a big impact. I grew up on tour with my parents. Kind of different, but we bonded over music and we talked. Honest conversations, like when my dad shared his experiences as an alcoholic. Your honesty gave me a sense of integrity that I wanted in my own life.
And I wanted you to know, from someone who's been in recovery more than 30 years now, that hard work is what creates success, not alcohol or other drugs, in whatever you do.
Talk, they hear you.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. Beware of telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you. Callers threatening you with arrest or other legal action and demanding money are not from us. If you receive a call like this, hang up. Do not provide them with any form of payment or information. Report the call at oig.ssa.gov.
Joining me now is Shakita Gordon, Accreditation Manager for the Consolidated Dispatch Agency. Shakita, many people hear Consolidated Dispatch Agency and have no idea what we're talking about. It's a critical aspect of what we do. Explain to our citizens out there, what is the Consolidated Dispatch Agency?
So the Consolidated Dispatch Agency is the answering point for Leon County. We answer and take and process emergency and non-emergency calls for the Sheriff's Office, the Police Department, Leon County EMS, and the Tallahassee Fire Department. Whenever you call in for an emergency, we will go through a series of questions, which the questions are necessary in order for us to get you the appropriate response. And based upon the answers that you provide to us determines the level of response you receive at that time.
You know, Shakita, when I was a lieutenant, I used to run we had it in one place at the Tallahassee Police Department. I'd run down to the dispatch center when a crime was taking place, and I'd be right there with you guys. Explain to our citizens the volume of calls. I'm always stunned by the number of calls you all handle. Explain that to them.
We do take a lot of calls. I believe the numbers for 2020 were 491,000 emergency and non-emergency calls that were processed for the citizens of Leon County.
Wow. I mean, and that's EMS, fire, police, and what about FSU? Explain to the citizens about FSU. Why are they not included?
So we don't dispatch for any of the agencies for the universities here in town because they have their own dispatch center. I also believe that the agencies at the universities are state law enforcement, but we are the public safety answering point. So we are to take and process like all of the calls for the main agencies that, have jurisdiction over the entire county and the city of Tallahassee. Whenever we do receive a call that's on FSU, FAMU, or TCC's campus, we have the capability to transfer the calls to the agencies, and we will, inform them what kind of call it is and that it is within their jurisdiction, and we stay on the line to make sure that the call is transferred successfully and the caller doesn't get lost in the transfer process. If it's a medical or fire call, we will process the call because they don't have the capabilities to take and process those calls. But once the calls have been dispatched to the appropriate agencies, then we will contact them to let them know that we are responding to their campus for them to have their law enforcement en route as well.
Okay. Obviously, you know a lot about what you're talking about. Explain to our viewers what is the difference between the Consolidated Dispatch Agency and a real-time crime center?
So the Real-Time Crime Center is actually able to monitor different events that are occurring at the time that they are occurring, whereas the Dispatch Center does not have the capabilities to monitor. Also, I think it makes a difference in the personnel because when we're processing the 911 calls, our focus at that moment is making sure that our citizens are getting the help that they need. The Real-Time Crime Center, they have someone that's designated to check the cameras, and whenever they get notifications that something is occurring, they have the capability to key up on the radio to let us know what area the crime is occurring in, what they're seeing on the cameras, and then at that point we're able to communicate with the other law enforcement officials to get them en route to try to intercede at the time that the crime is actually occurring.
So they kind of work hand in glove, so to speak.
Yes.
Fantastic. This week is Telecommunications Week, Telecommunication Appreciation Week, and you all do such a fantastic job. What kind of, how important is it for you and your staff to have recognition from the citizens of Leon County?
It's important. It's somewhat important. So no one ever becomes a 911 public safety dispatcher because they're looking for the recognition that comes with it, because in all honesty, it's not normally there. But, a lot of times we get into this field because we want to be able to help other people. And it's, National Telecommunications Week is an important time for us because we do get to celebrate each other. We get to celebrate the jobs that we do. And, we get to rejoice in knowing that people do appreciate what we do. As you guys mentioned earlier, just because we don't respond to the scene of a crime doesn't mean that we're not affected by it. Because when you hear a mother crying because her child isn't breathing, or you're trying to calm someone down to give them the instructions to possibly save that child or someone else's life, we are affected by the things that the citizens, have to go through as well. We just aren't on scene to physically see it, but we hear everything. And, it's kind of difficult when you have someone that's in a panic mode and that's hysterical, and you're trying to get them to calm down enough to be able to help them. And, sometimes we feel as if we fail, like when things don't always go the way that we want it to, or it may not go how we're taught that it's supposed to by following these instructions. Like, it really does have an effect on us as well. So this is a time for us to just have fun, and just be excited about the job and the roles that we play in the community.
Thank you, Shakita.
Thank you.
And if you're looking for a new career, stay with us. The CDA is hiring.
In times of stress, such as quarantine, what goes on behind closed doors can be terrifying, but you don't have to suffer in silence. Help is here. Love is not controlling. Love is not frightening. And love is not violent. Love is respect. If you need assistance or just want to talk, we are here. Contact the Domestic Abuse Hotline at 800-500-1119 to speak to someone in your area. For more information, visit thedvcc.org.
I'm Andrew Saul, Commissioner of Social Security. Beware of telephone scammers pretending to be government employees. Real Social Security employees will never threaten you. Callers threatening you with arrest or other legal action and demanding money are not from us. If you receive a call like this, hang up, do not provide them with any form of payment or information. Report the call at oig.ssa.gov.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. Those we use all the time with hardly a thought. Those that are silently standing by to save our lives. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere we go. Many mobile devices will now bring you wireless emergency alerts, real-time information directly from local sources you know and trust. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know wherever you are.
We're back with Josh Martin, Professional Development Coordinator with the Consolidated Dispatch Agency. Josh, how are you recruiting for 911 operators?
Well, Sheriff, we're trying to bring in some individuals that'll be good for our agency. We take a lot of emergency and non-emergency calls, as we've said a couple of times here. It can be very stressful. We just got to make sure that the people that we have that come in can handle that stress, but that's something that we take care of. We have a 6 to 8 week class during which time we teach you how to use all of our systems, get them multiple certifications through a national or international agency for call taking, as Shakita brought up earlier on the different protocols for EMS, fire, and law enforcement. And then the state DOH certification, which is the governing body for all the Florida telecommunicators.
Yeah, Josh explained in the old days, and you probably changed it now, but we would go from station to station, learning various aspects of dispatching. Explain how that works.
We still do that. Like I said, we go through the classroom agency, or the classroom part 6 to 8 weeks. After that, we put each individual person with what we call a CTO, much like the FTOs of the Sheriff's Office. It's a communications training officer. We tend to start everyone out on phones, so that's going to be all your emergency and non-emergency call taking. You'll have one-on-one communication with the CTOs, and they'll help assist you and make sure that you are where you need to be to take stuff on your own. After that, just depending on availability, we'll send them on to either fire dispatching or law enforcement dispatching, both of which have their own ups and downs. As you can imagine, talking to a firefighter in a mask is much harder than talking to a deputy on the road, unless, of course, he's on a motorcycle. But once we're finished with that one, we go to teletype, which is our criminal history database, and anything we search for if anyone's missing, warrants, if anything's stolen, everything is entered into that database.
Now, I know all those jobs are real difficult to do, but what kind of background and experience do you expect somebody we're trying to hire as a 911 operator?
Well, there are not a lot of prerequisites. So we require at least a high school diploma or the equivalency. We want our individuals to be able to multitask. Like Shakita said earlier, you've got to be able to type into the system, answer the questions that based on what the person's giving you. And if they're in a panic mode, you got to be able to calm that person down and then be able to get them back on task if, like Shakita brought up, giving CPR on a child. That's something we need. You really need to be able to have that multitasking level to be able to do that, and also be able to deal with the stress that comes from it.
Now, Josh, is there an opportunity? Now, again, I'm talking about my experience, and it all changed, but there was always the opportunity. You came in as a dispatcher, and then you learned that, and then if you had in your career goal was to be a deputy or a police officer, you could then perhaps transfer into those occupations. Is that still happening or no?
I don't see it happen as much as it used to. I do know of a couple of your deputies now that I've started at the dispatch centers, but it doesn't happen as much anymore. But there is within the agency, we have the PSCOs, the regular dispatchers, the CTOs, 2 levels of supervisors, and then us and admin. I'm one of the newest ones back there, and I only got it, I think, the end of 2018, and I've just joined the training department and started working with the training coordinator and just pushing forward, trying to get everyone trained in our agency.
Since you're one of the persons out there trying to get these folks into our profession at the CDA, talk about the salary. What are the benefits from being hired as a 911 operator?
Well, most of our stuff comes from a collection of the city and the county. Our starting salary, or starting hourly wage, is $14.97. Once you've completed the classroom training and you finish phones, you get $1, so it would go up to $15.97, and once you finish all the rest, to $16.97. We have a city-matched 401k as well as a pension and all your health, vision, dental, and all the other benefits.
Thank you, Josh. That's extremely important to us. I hope there are some viewers out there that would like to become a CDA 911 operator. I think you've given us great information about what that career looks like. And I want to commend you and the staff of the CDA. This is Telecommunication Week, and I think you guys have done a great job in the community, keeping not only the people in our community safe, but keeping those deputies and police officers out there on the streets safe. Thank you.
We thank you too.
And just ahead, how the Lcso is raising awareness about autism. Stay tuned.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Some things in your medicine cabinet are more dangerous than others. When it comes to prescription drugs, opioid pain medicines can be addictive and even deadly. Half the people who misuse prescription pain medicines get them from a friend or family member. Be part of the solution. Go through your medicine cabinets, drawers, anywhere you keep unused opioid pills, patches, or syrups. Find out how to dispose of them safely. Visit fda.gov/drug disposal.
I drive 65,000 miles each year in my bus. If people knew what I know, lives could be saved. You don't want to be in the blind spot of a 40,000-pound bus when I have less than a second to react. I do what I can by changing lanes and taking turns slowly. It really helps when people look out for me too. Give me room to operate safely. It's our roads, it's our safety.
So I am one of 4 adopted kids. My parents have fostered and adopted kids. That's kind of what they have done my entire life. One of my youngest brothers, Micah, became their foster kid at 6 months. And Over time, my mother, who's a nurse, started noticing that he was regressing, which is common in kids that are on the spectrum. So they had him tested, and sure enough, he was on the spectrum. He is nonverbal. All of these stereotypical or classic signs of autism he displays. I remember getting that phone call from my mom telling me that he tested, on the spectrum, and I was at work. I was working midnights as a slick sleeve deputy, and I remember sitting in my patrol car crying about it. He's 15 now, and I just heard his first words, and they're not even really words, a year and a half ago. He just learned to write at 15, and so it's very personal to me. He's a 6'2", 6'3", 15-year-old who can't tell you when he's angry or sad or scared or whatever the case may be.
We recognized that there was a need for more education for our law enforcement officers in dealing with people on spectrum. So we thought that this would be a great way of not only raising awareness, but also raising funds. We created a autism awareness patch that will be distributed and displayed the 1st, which is the month of autism awareness. We wanted something that was going to reach beyond our building and our campus and bridge into the gaps of the community which we represent. So we thought that this would be a win-win situation. So we partnered with FSU's Autism Project, and we're really excited about it.
So the sheriff's office, for the first time ever, which is kind of cool, has created a autism patch, which is actually, I forgot, that's this thing, on the hood of 2 of the Tahoes in the patrol fleet, and actually on the back as well. And the hope is that people stop and go, hey, what is that about? And, we can talk about it. I think it's going to be interesting to see what grows of this. I know that they're fundraising for the Autism Project at FSU, which is awesome. And so it's the first time in the history, as long as I've been here, that this has ever been done. Autism specifically is one of those things that if you don't have familiarity, you may not know why the person's acting that way. I'm very sensitive to it, and so it's not hard for me to look and go, hey, he's stemming, which is the movement with his hands. And most deputies are like, I don't say most, but if they're not familiar with it, they look at it and they're like, I don't know what he's doing. And I'm like, oh, that's a sign of autism. And so it's benefited me because we do come across, individuals with autism, and I'm able to treat it a little bit differently. When the sheriff's office decided to kind of do this project, and they asked, are you interested? It was, you don't have to ask me, absolutely. Because if we can bring awareness to it or money to research, whatever the case may be, that directly affects my brother.
We want our deputies highly educated when they deal with people to understand that a lot of subjects on spectrum are upset, but they're not upset at the deputy, they're not upset at their family members, they're upset at whatever situation it is. And we want to be helpful, not hurtful. And there have been some times where some well-publicized events that have occurred across the nation where we didn't get it right. And the Leon County Sheriff's Office wants to get it right. The fundraiser will be, we've ordered uniform patches, and they're commemorative patches that have the logo, and we sell them for $10, and all proceeds from those will be donated to the FSU Autism Project.
Why? Why do we ignore the things that give us pause, that seem out of place, that don't feel right? The answer to why defines who we are. So if you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my friends.
For my community.
For my family.
For each other. Because all of this matters. We all have something worth protecting. So why do you see safe? Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
I've been driving a truck for 40 years now. If people knew what I know, lives could be saved. Like the trucks can't stop quickly. It takes my 80,000-pound truck 200 yards to come to a complete stop. So I always do my best to give a lot of cushion. It helps when other drivers realize that and do the same. Please give trucks the space we need so we can all stay safe. It's our roads, it's our safety.
Every year, the Salvation Army serves nearly 30 million people in need. That's one person every second. So by the time you've finished watching this, 30 more lives will have been changed for good. All thanks to your donations.
Thank you.
Give today.
1 in 3 women will be victims of sexual violence in their lifetime.
So will 1 in every 4 men.
But we can all help in the fight against sex crimes.
Don't look the other way. If you see something, say something.
And don't blame the victim.
No means no. Parents, be vigilant. Know who lives in your neighborhood.
And if you are a victim, please get help.
Let's be all in.
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 To stop sexual violence.
Welcome back to Leon County Today. And Sheriff, what a wonderful show today. I'm so enthusiastic about our autism effort in the community. We've got a fundraiser going, and I know you don't like this, but I just got to commend you for the training that we've done as it relates to autism and mental health awareness in general when our deputies are out communicating with the public.
Well, they're doing a great job. I was really thrilled. I got an email from a parent said that their son has autism and wanted to make sure that we gave him a patch, that we sent him a patch.
Yeah.
And you guys are working on getting that patch to that young man. It just says how engaged we are in our community. And our deputies and our staff care so much about this community and are trying to give back. And that's just one of the many ways in which we, I'm always talking about all in.
Yes.
So here we go again. But that's another way that we connect and become all in with this community. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah, speaking about all in, we got to talk about the 911 dispatchers in our community and the wonderful work that they do day in and day out.
I tell you, I'm always amazed. I've gone and seen them in action firsthand. And I think they're the unsung heroes in our community. Nobody really thinks a whole lot about what they do, but the stress and the way to get the job done, they are an entity in our community that cannot be replaced. They help us in so many ways, not only us in law enforcement, fire, EMS, but this community as a whole. So join in this week and celebrate Telecommunication Week with us.
Yeah, life-saving efforts, and they're hiring.
Absolutely.
We need you indeed. All right, thanks a lot, Sheriff. And we want to thank you all for joining us for another episode. We'll see you right back here next Tuesday. Have a wonderful day.